It was a cold evening when Richard, a wealthy millionaire, opened his mansion door and found a frail little girl standing there. Her clothes were worn, her face pale, and she clutched her stomach as if in pain. "Please, sir. I don't feel well," she whispered. Richard frowned. He wasn't used to strangers showing up at his doorstep, especially not sick, poor children. "You must be at the wrong house," he muttered and closed the door. But that night sleep refused to come. Her weak voice echoed in his mind. Something about her eyes felt strangely familiar. The next morning, he called his staff, asking if anyone had seen the girl. To his surprise, the guard mentioned she had collapsed near the gates. Without hesitation, Richard rushed to the hospital. When he arrived, the doctor looked troubled. "She needs care, but she also needs family." Richard stepped closer to her bed, his heart tightening as he noticed a small pendant hanging from her neck. He froze. That pendant. It was the same one he had given years ago, to a woman he once loved but lost. His hands trembled. Who is this child's mother?" he asked. The doctor quietly replied. "She passed away months ago. The girl only had this address." At that moment, Richard's heart shattered. He realized the truth. The poor, sick girl he had ignored at his door was his own daughter. And he had almost turned her away forever. Richard sat by the hospital bed, his chest heavy with guilt. The girl's small hand rested on the blanket, fragile and trembling. He reached out slowly, brushing his fingers against hers. "I'm so sorry," he whispered, though she was still unconscious. Memories from years ago came flooding back, the woman he once loved, the one who left without explanation. Richard had buried that part of his past under layers of business meetings, luxury, and wealth. But now, destiny had brought the truth to his doorstep. When the girl finally opened her eyes, Richard's heart skipped. "Hello, sweetheart," he said softly, unsure how to start. She blinked at him, confused. "Are you my father?" The words struck him like lightning. He wanted to deny it, to hide from his shame. But instead tears welled in his eyes. Yes, I am. And I promise, I'll never leave you again." The girl's lips curved into the faintest smile, and Richard knew he had been given a second chance, a chance to make things right. Later, as the nurses prepared her for treatment, Richard spoke with the doctor. "Give her everything she needs, no matter the cost." The doctor nodded. "She'll recover, but what she needs most is love." That night, Richard didn't return to his mansion. He stayed by her side, holding her hand, whispering stories, and promising her a future full of care and joy. The millionaire who once measured his worth in gold now found true wealth in the fragile heartbeat of a little girl, the daughter he had almost lost. And for the first time in years, Richard felt human again. The next morning, Richard arrived at the hospital with something he hadn't carried in years, a bouquet of wildflowers. He hesitated outside the room, nervous like a stranger meeting someone for the first time. When he walked in, the girl looked up, her frail body propped up against pillows. "For you," he said, placing the flowers on her bedside table. Her eyes widened. "No one's ever brought me flowers before." Richard's throat tightened. "Not even me," he thought painfully. Sitting down, he asked, "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Lila," she whispered. The name echoed in his chest like a melody he had long forgotten. "Lila," he repeated softly, as if memorizing every syllable. For hours they talked. Lila told him about the little things, how she loved sketching, how she always dreamed of having a puppy, and how she often stood outside the bakery just to smell the fresh bread because she couldn't afford it. Each word shattered Richard's pride. He, who owned restaurants, luxury cars, and villas, had let his own child grow up in hunger and loneliness. That afternoon, when the nurse brought Lila her meal, Richard surprised everyone. He rolled up his sleeves, took the tray, and sat beside her. "I'll feed you today," he said. The staff whispered outside the door, stunned at the sight of the untouchable millionaire gently holding a spoon, encouraging his daughter to eat bite by bite. For Richard, it was no humiliation. It was redemption. As he watched Lila finish her meal with a tired smile, he realized something profound. All his power, all his wealth, meant nothing compared to this moment, earning his daughter's trust. And in that small hospital room, Richard finally understood what it meant to be a father. Days turned into a week, and Richard rarely left Lila's side. His business associates were shocked, meetings postponed, contracts delayed, but for the first time, he didn't care. One evening, as rain tapped softly against the hospital window, Lila asked a question that pierced his heart. "Why didn't you ever come before?" Richard froze. He had no excuse strong enough, no words big enough to cover years of absence. Finally, with tears threatening, he whispered, "Because I was a coward. I thought money could replace love, but I was wrong." Lila looked at him for a long time before replying, "I didn't need your money. I just needed you." Those words shattered him more than any boardroom loss ever could. The next morning, Richard made a promise. He arranged for Lila to have the best medical care, and personally oversaw every detail. But more than that, he made sure to be present. He read her stories, held her hand when she felt pain, and even learned how to braid her hair with the help of the nurses. Word spread quickly. Reporters caught wind of the once arrogant millionaire transformed into a devoted father. Some mocked, some admired, but Richard ignored them all. One night, as he tucked Lila in, she whispered, "I used to dream of a family. Now, I think I have one." Richard kissed her forehead gently. "You'll never be alone again. That's my promise." And for the first time in years, Richard didn't feel like a powerful businessman or a wealthy tycoon. He felt like something far greater, a father who finally understood the true meaning of love. Weeks passed, and slowly, Lila's health began to improve. The color returned to her cheeks, and her laughter, once faint and rare, now filled Richard's mansion like music. One Sunday morning, he took her to the garden where roses bloomed in full. Lila ran her fingers across the petals and smiled. "It feels like home here," she said softly. Richard swallowed hard. "That's because it is your home. Forever." But his guilt still lingered. During a board meeting, he made an announcement that stunned everyone. "From this day forward, a portion of my wealth will go to children's hospitals across the country. No child should ever feel abandoned the way my daughter once did." The room fell silent. Some clapped, some stared in disbelief, but Richard didn't care. For once, his heart was leading, not his fortune. That evening, as he returned home, he found Lila waiting with a small handmade card. On it, in crayon, were the words, "Best dad in the world." Richard's eyes filled with tears. He hugged her tightly, realizing he'd finally earned a title far greater than millionaire, or CEO. He was simply, Dad. Months later, during a charity gala, Richard walked on stage, not to boast about profits, but to share his story. "Wealth means nothing if love is missing. My daughter taught me that." The audience rose in applause, but Richard's gaze was fixed on Lila, who sat in the front row, beaming with pride. That night, as they left hand in hand, Richard whispered, "You saved me, Lila." She giggled and replied, "No, Daddy, we saved each other." And with that, the once lonely millionaire finally found his richest treasure, not in gold, but in the unconditional love of his daughter.